Good morning, Natalie.
Good morning, Grace. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right, let's get started. Good afternoon, good evening, good whatever part of day you're all in. Let's get started. My name is Grace Liao, and I am the program experience lead here at Quantic School of Business and Technology. Just really quick behind the scenes is our producer Kelsey Duggan, and I just want to make sure I thank her as always for supporting our events. So thanks so much, Kelsey. Now we have quite a bit to cover today, and let me get us going. If you haven't ever joined one of these, we are here today for another episode of Quantic Conversations, which is a time for us to bring Quantic students, Quantic alumni, and other community members to the stage for an engaging conversation. Today's session will be 45 minutes long and it is recorded. So if you need to step away, you're welcome to come back to the same exact link and you can watch our conversation anytime you want to. And by the way, especially for those of you who are not Quantic students, I know we have plenty in the audience. If you are interested in learning more about Quantic's MBA or Executive MBA, we have a handy QR code that we're going to post in a second that you can use to learn more about our student experience. Feel free to check it out or just screenshot this for later so you can explore a little bit about Quantic. Now, for those of you who are tuned in, and I know there are many of you from all over the place, we would love for you to interact with us during this conversation. Of course, it's going to be between myself and Natalie, but we always want our students and anyone else in the world to join in. So go ahead in the comment box, tell us where you're joining in from, where you're calling in from. We'd love to see where you are geographically. We also love these conversations because it is a chance for you to if you hear something that resonates with you, go ahead and comment in the box as well. And we would love to see that. And by the way, if you do have any questions as we go along, as Natalie and I get into the discussion, go ahead and add that to the comment box. And if we can, we'll get to those questions as well. Now, let me introduce our very special guest today. Now, you will learn more about Natalie Kaminski today. You're going to learn from her as she shares her stories of career, of leadership, and of navigating enormous challenges. We hope what emerges is a strong picture of what it looks like to do what it takes to move forward. And that's something we can all resonate with. With more than 20 years of experience in technology industry, Natalie is a dynamic and resourceful web and mobile technology entrepreneur. She is currently the CEO and founder of JetRockets, which builds unique software solutions to help students achieve, not students, businesses achieve their business goals. I think I said students. Natalie's journey to successful founder isn't a particularly common one. She was born in Russia and grew up in Ukraine and then Israel. She arrived in Minneapolis at the age of 18, working to put herself through college and earn a programming certificate. By 22, Natalie was leading her first team. Fast forward 10 years, entrepreneurship came knocking on Natalie's door. JetRockets was born of circumstance and gumption. When a connection asked for a recommendation for a software development firm, Natalie didn't hesitate to volunteer her own as yet non-existent team. Her first two developers, Igor Alexandrov and Alexei Solonin, became her co-founders. JetRockets now boasts a team of 65 plus across the globe and is growing rapidly, building staff and revenue 100% year over year. Because of JetRocket's commitment to developing ongoing relationships with clients, Natalie is also deeply committed to her employees. She and her co-founders do what it takes to create a healthy, thriving workplace, which has improved work ethic and increased job satisfaction. In 2022, this year, she took her responsibility for her workers to a new level, helping 46 of her Russia-based employees safely relocate outside the country during the war in Ukraine. Outside of JetRockets, Natalie builds tech products and communities. She is the co-founder of OneTribe.team, a leave management platform for hybrid and remote teams, which will soon launch publicly. Natalie is also a member of Chief and Entrepreneurs organizations, and holds, of course, an executive MBA from Quantic. And Natalie lives in Brooklyn with her husband and 2 daughters. Whew. Natalie, you are one busy lady, and I'm so excited to really get into the conversation with you. Before we dive in, is there anyone you would like to shout out to out in the World Wide Web?
Oh, wow. That's,
You can say
well,
hi to
first of all,
anybody
thank
you
you,
want.
Grace. Yes, well, definitely saying hi to my team, my JetRockets team. I hope at least some of them are able to listen in. So, hi, guys. Yeah.
It's so fun. Natalie, I'm so mesmerized by your story, and that's really what we want to spend time on. There's so many dimensions to it. Of course, all of us have our personal stories and career stories and everything in between. But I want to make sure that we get to hear as much as we can of your journey, especially over the last several months. So I'm going to try to track it with, try to do a little bit chronologically. I'm going to go all the way back to when you were young Natalie. Let's, if it's okay, let's start with your personal journey, which I read a little bit just now, but would love to hear some more detail. If we go back in time and speak to 18-year-old Natalie, where was she? What was she thinking? What was she doing? And what would you say she wanted to do with her life at that time?
Yes. So 18-year-old Natalie just arrived in Minneapolis from Israel, where I grew up. It was a big cultural shock as well as climate shock for me because, arriving from Israel to Minneapolis in October of 1998, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that was quite a shock. It was almost snowing and I was cold. And I was not used to driving in the snow. That was, that's a story on its own. But I was also very determined to succeed in my journey and settling in the US. I had $500 in my pocket. That's literally all I had to my name at that point. I grew up with my mother in very modest circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have an opportunity to rely on my family for financial support. Mm-hmm. And therefore, when I was 18, unlike many 18 years olds, and I'm looking at my own 16-year-old right now, my goal number one was financial security. As as interesting as that may sound, that was my driver at that point. And time-wise, it was, very timely in the way that it was easier to get into IT. Mm-hmm. And the world was dealing with an upcoming Y2K issue. And for those of you guys who are young, not to remember Y2K, it was when the years were going to switch from 1999 to 2000, and all of the prior legacy computer software was written in a way that it was handling just 2-digit years in the database as opposed to 4-digit years. And the world was supposed to end. So it was rather easy, somewhat easier to get a job by claiming that, hey, I'm a programmer. I can come in and help you rewrite your databases. And that's pretty much what I did. But kind of going back to your question, at 18, I was in Minneapolis thinking about how am I going to survive here on my own without having to go back and kind of crawling with my tail stuck under and being, giving up. So I was very much determined to find my own way, get a job, and start earning money.
Yeah. It's even at that young age, you recognize that things weren't just going to come to you and are handed to you on a plate. So that's something, a trait that I think that it looks like throughout your career that has kind of stayed a thread, and we'll definitely talk about more about that. And the title, of course, today is doing what it takes, not just as CEO and entrepreneur, but just as a person, a human in general. So now let's fast forward.
Yep.
to you entered the tech industry from a young age, and then eventually you became an entrepreneur. So could you unpack a little bit more about the JetRockets origin story? How did that come about?
Yes, so I think it's important to mention that when I entered the IT world, I focused really hard on finding my place in the IT. I started out as a programmer, and I quickly realized, within about 6 to 8 months, I realized that I was not the programmer type, at least not what programmers considered to be in 1998. I was more of a I had a very analytical yet very outgoing personality. So it was important to me to communicate with users, to understand the reasoning behind why we're building something. I was fascinated with what you could do with technology, right? And I definitely felt that this is where I want to be, and I tried to find my own spot or my own place in it. So I spent the next decade literally working through every single, or most job roles within the IT world, within the software development lifecycle. I started as a programmer. I moved on to quality assurance testing. I worked as a business analyst for a while. I moved on to project management, database architect, even did some web design, very brief, but nevertheless. So, so 10 years, I really spent about learning the ropes and kind of understanding the industry of software development. And I felt at some point that I've reached that ceiling. And I felt that, not that I've learned everything there is to learn, but I felt like I've had enough of experience and hands-on expertise to go out on my own and try entrepreneurship. I have always been a very entrepreneurial type. I think, and I joke sometimes, that at this point in my career, I'm unemployable because I don't do well. I don't do well under kind of, in a strict organization or stuff like that. I need to let my creativity out. I need to be able to be my own boss in a way, So I felt it was the right time. I felt I've gained the right expertise and the right skill set. And I decided to give myself a chance. Now, JetRockets, as you mentioned during the introduction, was kind of born very organically. There was never a time where we sat down, wrote a business plan, or thought about, I want to build a business. How do I go about it? Now, what happened is I got an opportunity to work on a project as a project manager. That project grew a little bit more into development, where I started to look for developers who would help me deliver the product to the client. And I was attending an event here in New York City. It was a networking, sort of IT networking event. And I remember standing, having a drink, chatting with someone. And I heard this voice behind my back, with this like very pronounced Russian accent, probably heavier than mine. And I looked around and I saw this very tall guy, and, we started chatting. And it turned out that he just recently came from Moscow. And he asked me what I did. And I told him that, I built custom software, which of course was, not true at that time. Nevertheless, I said that. And he said, oh my God, I have a team of developers, which, if we kind of, fast forward, apparently he wasn't telling the truth either. And then what happened, this person, his name was Sergey, he ended up introducing me via email to my, future business partner, Igor Alexandrov, whom he found on a project, or rather a website called Elance, which subsequently became Upwork. So, he introduced me to Igor. We immediately hit it off because we felt like we had very similar work ethic. We wanted to work together. We wanted to give it a shot. But the funny thing is that Sergey completely disappeared. Neither Igor nor I ever heard from Sergey again. So we feel it was, an angel sent from heavens to bring us together. And, we joke sometimes. Every year we celebrate our company's birthday. We, always toast to Sergey. So wherever you are, Sergey, thank you. So, and again, fast forward just maybe a couple of years in, Igor and I started to work together on one project. One project became two projects became three. We've ended up hiring, or rather getting together with our third business partner, Alexei. And then before we knew it, we had 5, and then 6, and then 8 people working for us. So one day we said, oh my God, what's going on? Do we have a company here? And we almost had to convince ourselves that, yes, we have a business, let's try and build something out of it. And that's how JetRockets was born.
That is, that's a fantastic story. It's so interesting to hear the path that led you to where it's almost just even you just said it. It wasn't something you had a destination for necessarily. It sounds like at least early on, it was a lot of prototyping as you went along the way and seeing what maybe felt right and aligned with who you were. And that's so as leaders and people thinking about starting businesses and network, all the things that happen in the business world. And we see it in our program with our students because we're a business program, that the balance of how much of it is clean and in a box and prescribed and planned, are very detailed, and how much of it is organic and how much of it is going with your gut. I want to ask you a question about confidence, and maybe we'll visit this throughout. I did meet you in person. I met you in person in New York briefly.
Yes.
I would say as an onlooker that you are an extremely confident, poised leader. Where does that come from for you?
Well, first of all, thank you. I think it comes, for me personally, I think it comes from a place of, I've struggled a lot as a child, had some traumatic experiences. And I kind of learned early on you got to move on. You got to persevere and move on. Yeah. And ultimately, I believe that whatever happens for the best, even when things don't work out very well. I think what's important is to remind yourself to keep moving forward, and that ultimately you are the only person who can make things happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it comes from. And ultimately, when you see the results of your work, it boosts your confidence. Not to say that I've never felt or experienced sort of, this effect of, oh my God, am I impersonating someone right now? But at the same time, it's okay. Whatever puts you out of the comfort zone actually makes you grow. Yeah. So I love challenge. I thrive in challenge. I love situations that make you uncomfortable. Definitely, hopefully they don't last too long. Yeah. But anything that kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone, I think allows you to become a better person, better human being, a better professional.
Yeah. That is such wisdom. I hope your daughters are taking notes from you. I hope they're taking notes from you. Okay.
I will be sharing this with them at the end, once the recording comes out. Absolutely.
Excellent. That's so great. Okay. Now on the top, let me take a bit of what you just said. Being taken out of our comfort zone, and of course challenges and adversity do sharpen us and give us the opportunity, whether we want it or not, to grow and then to build that confidence. I want to talk about JetRockets, yourself, your company, your team, your tribe through the last several months of what's been just a series of challenges and situations that we probably didn't plan for. So you wrote and by the way, audience, if you haven't, if you check out Natalie's profile on LinkedIn, you'll see that she has this fantastic newsletter series that she writes. And actually, I want to mention one of the articles right here. One of the articles that you wrote, how JetRockets supported its international team through crisis. You opened, the first line right in your article is, "We'll start here. JetRockets stands with Ukraine." Right there. Could you start to unpack the last several months, going back to late February, early March, when Russia invaded Ukraine, and how that's impacted you and your team?
Yes. So yes, unequivocally, 100% we stand with Ukraine, and as the world should. We definitely had very different plans for 2022. We wrapped up 2021 very successfully. We were on a great trajectory of growth. And I remember at the end, sort of like year-end meeting, company-wide meeting, we shared a lot of goals and ideas and kind of things that we've planned for 2022. Unfortunately, we had to revisit that plan. Now, when Russia invaded, we were, my partners and I, we were kind of watching the news from the beginning of January, because we started hearing some gossip, started hearing some things coming out of Eastern Europe, as well as the State Department in the US. And we were very careful about keeping an eye on the situation. We were trying to prepare for the worst. Of course, in our minds, the worst was much better than what it turned out to be. We thought that perhaps Russia will, do something, maybe cross the border at one location, create some sort of localized conflict, but never in our minds did we envision such a huge war in the middle of Europe in 2022. So what turned out to be reality turned out to be much worse than we could ever prepare for. When the war started, we immediately knew that we had to do something in terms of our actions, in terms of helping Ukraine, but also preserving our company. We spent at that time over 10 years building it. We had a team of, at that time, 50 plus employees, and each and every one of those employees were a family. It's important to mention that prior to February 2022, JetRockets experienced very little turnover. People who came to work for us tend to stay for a long time, because we work very hard on creating a culture and an environment within the organization that makes people want to stay. And we immediately knew that, the world will not be the same. Russian relationship with the world will not be the same. JetRockets is a US-based company. We've always been a US-based company. And it just so happened that we had a development center in Russia, like many of our competitors do. But we also, we were worried that young people might get enlisted into the army, or conscripted rather, obligated to go into the army. We were very concerned about the very real possibility of internet being shut out, or shut down in Russia. And it has been partially, right? Certain resources are no longer available. We definitely were worried about the fact of how the Russian government comes down very hard on any critics of the regime. As you may or may not be aware, in Russia, you're not allowed to call what's happening right now a war. You're supposed to say it's a military operation. And if you say it's a war, you can get arrested and even jailed. And people do get arrested and jailed. You're not allowed to criticize the government. You're not allowed to say anything that even remotely sounds like you're against the war. So given that majority of our, I'd say all of our employees are very, democratic and young and forward Western looking, needless to say that none of them supports the situation. And we were very concerned about their well-being. So the first thing we decided to do was to get them out of the country. It was a very quick decision. It was not much of a discussion. We said, look, we need to get our people out. And our people meant not just them personally, but also their families, immediate families, their spouses, their children, their dogs and cats, if they had any. And we decided to financially support them with that endeavor, and not just financially, but also, anything that we could do, we offered and we put on the table. We basically said, look, we'll help you buy the tickets. We'll help pay for your first, month or few weeks until of leaving situation, until you find a new apartment in the new country. We definitely had to increase salaries to accommodate, the difference in living expenses in different countries. And we've gone through great lengths of doing as much as we can for each and every one of our employees who was willing to relocate.
Yes.
Of course, you have to understand that not 100% of our employees would join us.
Right.
Because of various situations. We had people who had sick elderly parents they couldn't leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
We had people who had spouses with jobs that did not allow remote work. Think teachers, librarians, or anyone who is working within the government organization, maybe.
Right.
Those became sort of personas who couldn't leave the country, obviously. So we did what we could. And the first few months were extremely, extremely stressful. We also had to ensure that our clients did not suffer, that the work had continued.
Right.
And that was very challenging. Yet I got to give it to my guys. I got to give it to the team. Every single person worked, picked up slack for others. If one person was scheduled to get on a plane and move, then the rest of the team would pick up their tasks and continue the work. It was very humbling and very empowering at the same time to see how people came together, how people were helping one another. And despite difficulties, and we've had many difficulties along this process, I believe that we came out a stronger organization. Unfortunately, we had to part ways with those employees who decided to made a choice or a decision to stay in Russia. Sure. Because as a company, we said, look, we're not able to pay salaries in Russia because we don't want tax dollars going towards the government or the military machine. We don't, and of course you could argue, listen, it's not that much money, and we're not a huge corporation like some of these other corporations who have actually decided to stay. But I believe that every single contribution matters. So despite the amount, I don't want to be part of that war, and I don't want JetRockets to be part of that war. So that has been and still continues to be a challenge. People have relocated, they've settled in their new homes, but of course, now it's been 6 months. People are struggling. Now kind of the honeymoon phase is over, right? Now you start realizing that, oh my God, this is for the long haul. It's immigration, it's never easy. People are missing their families, they're missing their friends, they're missing their homes. And we are trying to do our best to support them through the struggle.
As I'm listening to you tell the story, it's actually the story. It housed in you as the leader, and certainly everyone on your team. You contain all the stories of your employees because I can only imagine, have heard over the last several months every single conversation, the heartache, the change, the sudden upheaval of life. It wasn't a choice in a lot of ways. Are there a couple of moments that stand out to you in the process of the last several months as just key moments that will just really stay with you going forward?
Well, I'll happily share a couple of anecdotes or kind of funny moments, I'd say. So my partner Igor, I believe he was leaving around February 27th. So just 3 days into the war, and during that time, like the first wave of people who were leaving Russia. Everyone was afraid because they didn't know, would the government let them out? There were very real situations where people would be detained at the border, especially IT specialists, because, you think about the brain drain that's happening right now, and, obviously Russia doesn't want it. Or, well, maybe they do. It's a whole separate discussion that we can touch upon. I have my own theory on that. But, people, our employees were clearing out their laptops, basically raising any trace of their social media activity, especially if there is some anti-government sentiment in that activity. They were clearing out any software related to programming development, because again, at the border, they would be asked, well, what do you do? What's your profession? And people would come up with all sorts of stories. So my partner, he actually ended up carrying his scuba diving gear with him to the airport, because his story was he's going on vacation to scuba dive. And to make things believable, he basically, he brought his scuba diving equipment. So that's kind of one little anecdote that we kind of laugh about now. It wasn't very funny then, but
no,
it is kind of now. And another story is, if you recall, or there was a moment also in the beginning of March, I believe, where Visa and Mastercard decided to cancel all of their Russian held accounts. So you could no longer use Visa or Mastercard to get money out. And it was very sudden and very abrupt decision. And I learned about it here in New York around 5 p.m., which was deep kind of night in in Turkey. That's where my partners were at the time. And I believe people had maybe like 24 hours or so to get their money off of their accounts. So, and I know that they had their personal accounts as well as access to business accounts, and they now had a very real chance of getting stuck without any money in a foreign country. And they came with their families. It's a very dangerous situation. So I started calling and trying to wake them up and be like, you got to run to the ATM, get the money off. And I couldn't wake anybody up because I guess people were very deep sleepers. So I ended up calling Igor, and then his wife, and then Alexei, and then his wife, and kind of going in circles, trying to wake them up. And eventually I succeeded. I woke them up. They immediately understood what's happening. They got up, and then the story goes, they started running from one ATM to another, because how you have limits on how much money you can get from one ATM.
Right.
So, and they said, as they were going from one bank to another, from one ATM to another, they could see hordes of other Russian expats, or essentially, people relocating out of Russia, primarily IT engineers, running with them from one ATM machine to another ATM machine, trying to get their money out. And we were joking about how, oh my God, we have an opportunity to hunt some, good developers. Let's do this. Buy the ATM.
Networking.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Stories like this. Yes.
Gosh, Natalie, when we think about stories, just in general, all of us, we can tell about when we were young and the hard things at the moment when those things were happening. It was far from funny, just moments of, is this real? Is this really happening? I think that's what I'm feeling as I'm listening to you tell the stories of your coworkers and your partners and your and you being in the U.S. while all this is happening, all this time. Oh my goodness, I see the clock ticking. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I just also want to mention that I still feel that this whole situation, the war, is very unreal.
Yeah.
Even though there are very real people who are dying every day. To me, it's so incomprehensible. I just can't believe that we, as humans, are allowing this to happen right now, and it just breaks my heart. My sister and her family live in Ukraine. They live in the city of Dnipro, and even though they have been largely spared, somehow Russian, bombs don't fall there as often as they do in other places, like Kharkiv, for example. But nevertheless, every day I read the news and I check in with my sister, I check in with her kids, and it's heartbreaking to know what they have to go through right now. And the situation is still very unreal, despite I know it's happening, but I just can't believe it is. you know.
You are, of course, deeply tied to the situation, and thank you for so much for sharing that you will continue to be very linked to the world events, personally, professionally, all of that. Just a couple of last questions, and I had a feeling we'd run through time pretty quickly. Um, uh, the first question is, what does the future look like, and what's coming up for JetRockets as a company? What do you see as challenges or opportunities over the next months or
Yes,
weeks?
thank you for this question. It's something I think about every day.
Mm,
And of course, when such a traumatic event happens to either a person or a company, an
mm,
organization, you can view it either as, it could be the end of your business,
mhm,
or it could be an opportunity to move to the next level.
mm,
And that's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I believe will happen with us.
yeah.
I see that despite the heartache of breaking up and with some of our employees and saying
Mm,
goodbye to some of our people who spent years with us, and
mm,
helping us get to where we are, I feel that this is an opportunity for us to attract new talent,
mm,
talent that will help us take the next step and break through to the next level.
mhm,
Uh, my goal is to continue to grow. My goal is to continue and build excellent products. We are very fortunate. We have excellent, wonderful, loyal clients who've stuck
mm.
with us through this uh, transitional period, let me put it this way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I believe that we will prove them right. I believe
Mm,
that they will be happy that they decided not to abandon the ship, so to speak, and to continue the relationship with us, because I believe that we came out as a stronger organization. We have proven to our people that we care.
mm,
Our people have proven to us their loyalty.
yeah.
And I think it allows us to move forward a stronger, better, company that is destined for great things. I would love for us to get to 100 people within the next year. Let me be a little bit more conservative. I was going to say 6 months, but let's see what happens. um,
Yeah.
we, I would love to continue to work with some of our newly acquired clients, and to build out relationship that we have been building, and to build new products and see those products launch, see those products being used by the community. And
Mm,
I do believe that we have a good thing going, and I do believe that we have a lot of strength,
yeah.
and we have the right recipe to continue.
Yeah. That I would say this is Grace's opinion. Listening to everything you've shared, Natalie, you've been preparing for these moments your whole life. I really feel that way. From uh, from the time 18-year-old Natalie landed in the U.S. and even before that till now, the thread throughout your story and will continue to be is people. It's
Absolutely.
This could have easily been a conversation. It almost was just about tech, about leadership, about entrepreneurship, about women in tech and leadership. It's about people and the the company culture, the team that you've built. And of course, no one can be ready for anything, and there'll be things coming up ahead of us in the future that we will not be prepared for. We didn't prepare for a pandemic, for instance. But kudos to you and your team for
Thank you.
coming through. And Quantic, I'll speak on behalf of Quantic. We are so proud to have you in the program. We are so lucky. I have a question, one last question for you to offer to the audience, and I know that we have a mix of Quantic students and non-Quantic students. Um, leader to leader, mother to parents, whatever hat you want to kind of approach this question from. When you think of doing what it takes to move forward, what kind of encouragement can you offer our audience who are navigating difficult challenges?
Well, I'll approach this question from two perspectives. So
Sure.
first, as a leader, as a company owner, as the CEO, I'd say that every single decision that we make goes through the filter of, if we make this decision, if we do this, would I still want to work in this company if I were an employee?
Mm.
So, do unto others as you want to be done unto yourself, right? That's what we're being taught from a very young age, and I believe it applies. And to go to what you said earlier, people is everything. Whether it's a service company like ours or a product company, people are the ones who do the work. People are the ones who make or break businesses. Yeah. So investing into your people and doing everything from this filter of, if I do this, will this help me make my people happier? Mm. Then yes, then you should do it. And if it's questionable decision, then perhaps take your time, think about it, right? And maybe don't do it. Now, in terms of on a personal level, unfortunately, this past year has been very difficult on personal level as well. We've had some loss in our close friendship circle, and it was very challenging. It continues to be, and probably will remain so for a long time. But it helped me put many things into perspective. Just choose your battles, really. I feel like most things that we tend to stress over are not worth it. At the end of the day, as cliche as it may sound, your family, your friends are everything. Yeah. Your work family should be up there as well, and if you're lucky enough, you have a work family as well. Yeah. And allow yourself to tune into your own feelings in the way that, if you need to take time off, do it. Without taking time off, without kind of recharging, without rebooting your own inner systems, you will never be able to succeed as a leader or as a parent, for that matter, right? So allow yourself to step away, allow yourself to take a break, especially during challenging situations, because running on adrenaline is great and it can help you. And that's what I did the first 3 months, since the invasion. I was running on adrenaline. I was barely sleeping, but it comes with a huge price. So at the end of the day, take care of yourself, and only then you can take care of others.
That is the perfect note to end on. That is a tremendous reminder. Everyone needs to hear. And by the way, I did your most recent newsletter was in fact about a much needed break, and you did spend some time away for yourself, correct?
Excellent. Absolutely. Yes. Excellent. Yes. I disconnected from everything. I did. Yes.
You did, even like your phone and all that.
Well, I was with my family, so I knew that my daughters, my husband were with me, so yeah. I didn't have to pick up the phone. I trusted my partners to take care of the business, and I disconnected. Yes,
that's perfect. Well, Natalie, we are an audience. We are at time right now, and like all of the Quantic conversations, it is not meant to be an end-all, be-all conversation. This is really to activate thinking. I hope the audience is going to take away. I know they're going to take away some really nuggets of wisdom from you, Natalie, and just also want to continue to kind of track your story and the JetRocket story, because there's always more story that will unfold as we go. So thank you so much for your time. You're an amazing storyteller. I gotta tell you, if you need another line of work, you should go.
I'd love to. There's nothing I enjoy more than talking about myself.
It's the best way possible.
Thank you for the opportunity. I truly appreciate it, and I hope that I was able to inspire someone, or maybe just maybe. I hope it was interesting. So thank you so much.
100%. I'm sure that everyone will benefit from hearing this. And audience, I encourage you to check out some of the articles that Natalie has written, and also there's we'll link it later in the comment box. That the interview you did on NPR months ago was also a fantastic one to listen to. So Natalie, I have a great day. I'm sure you have lots of CEO and mother duties to attend to. So we will see you, and everyone else in the audience will see you at another Quantic conversation. Bye, everyone.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Grace. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Bye.